Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of This weekend, I'm reviewing the haunted house classic Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite, which this was recommended to me by the viewer Julius Seizure. And overall, I really feel like this was a great book to read for Pride Month because it provided me with realistic same-sex characters, and it took place during the warmer months of the year. Also, before getting started on my review, I would like to note that I buddy read this with my good online friend Gina, because when I mentioned to her that Drawing Blood was next on my TBR, she explained that she had never read Brite before, although she had been intending to do so, and because of that, I invited her to join me on my read, which I'm glad she did. Now, even though Gina had never read Brite before, this is my second time reading that author because last year I had reviewed Brite's short story collection called Are You Loathsome Tonight, which I absolutely adored because of its originality, diversity, and the author's style of writing. So because of that, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what I could expect with Drawing Blood. However, after I finished my read, I have to admit that this book exceeded my expectations big time. Like, not only do we have this really awesome realistic same-sex couple, but we have a murder house, and there's this whole 90s vibe going on where it's like the whole alternative culture of that time. So yeah, everything came together for me to absolutely love everything about this book. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I would like to say thank you to Julia Seizure for recommending this book, and thank you to Gina for reading this with me as we had some fun discussions. And if either of you are watching, I hope you enjoy this review. So, with that said, let's take a walk down Violin Road and visit with Trevor and Zach in Missing Miles' infamous murder house. Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite opens in the 1970s and introduces the McGee family who have temporarily moved into an old farmhouse on Violin Road in Missing Mile, North Carolina. From here, we gain the perspective of Trevor McGee, which at this point Trevor is only 5 years old, and we understand that his mother has taken on the side job of modeling for an art class, while his father Bobby, who had gained fame through his underground comic called Birdland, is suffering from a creative block that is not allowing him to live up to his previous potential. And when Bobby's creative juices refuse to flow, one night Bobby drugs Trevor, and while Trevor is sleeping, Bobby kills his entire family, then commits suicide. Which, of course, Trevor is oblivious to this until he wakes up the following day and finds the dead bodies. At this point, we fast forward to 20 years later and see that Trevor is still haunted by what his father did, and he's still wondering why his father did it. So to gain answers, Trevor returns to his childhood home on the anniversary of the murders. However, shortly after returning to this murder house, Trevor meets the outlaw named Zach, who is on the run from the law because he does computer hacking, which to Trevor and Zach's surprise, they fall head over heels in love, and they decide to use this house as their hideout and their love nest. But as they become settled and fall deeper in love, we discover that the brutal history of this house has the potential to repeat itself, and this throws Trevor and Zach into a scenario that could end their relationship in bloodshed. Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite was published in 1993 and followed the author's debut novel Lost Souls. Setting-wise, although Missing Mile, North Carolina is a fictional place, on Brite's website it is mentioned that Missing Mile was inspired by locations like Athens, Georgia and Duncan, North Carolina, as well as Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where Brite once lived. Character-wise, in an interview conducted by Nancy Kilpatrick with the Horror Interview, Brite was asked about homosexual characters and why Drawing Blood and Lost Souls featured predominantly gay or bi-male characters. Brite, who was a female at the time of this interview, explained she felt like a gay man born in a female body and that men are fascinating. Aside from the male characters, in an interview conducted by Alexander Lawrence, Brite explained that the female character from Drawing Blood named Eddie was inspired by the author's experiences as an erotic dancer in Atlanta, Georgia. In the past, Brite has explained that Drawing Blood is a book from the heart, and in comparison to Lost Souls, Drawing Blood is more insular, claustrophobic, and darker. Fun facts. Well, actually, here's a disturbing fact, because as I was doing my research for Drawing Blood, I came across a Wikipedia article in regards to some collectible copies of this book. And after I did a little bit more research on that topic, I came across an interview that was conducted by Alexander Lawrence, where he was asking Poppy Z. Brite quite a few questions, and this topic that I read about on Wikipedia had been brought up as well. On Wikipedia, under collectibles, it was explained that a man had set himself on fire at an LA mailbox company where copies of Drawing Blood became saturated in the odor of his burnt flesh. Afterwards, these copies were sold as collectibles. In the interview conducted by Alexander Lawrence, Brite explained that a book dealer had ordered 3 leather-bound copies of Drawing Blood. Then, while these editions were in his mailbox, a militant firebomber who harbored racist views against the interracial couple who owned the postal store where the books were being held firebombed them. Yet, while he firebombed the facility, he accidentally torched himself to death. From here, the book owner was able to quickly sell all 3 copies he had purchased that smelled of burnt flesh. Now that we have that covered, it's time to move on to the spoiler section, which, if you've never read this book before, I'm about to reveal some things that could ruin the experience for you. So if you would like to click away, just scroll down to the comments and you'll see that I have a comment pinned at the top. Inside of that comment, there is a timestamp where if you were to click that timestamp, it will direct you away from the spoilers and bring you to the thoughts section. Now, you only have 17 seconds to do this, so ready, set, go! Since everyone's had the opportunity to click away, I would like to talk about a few moments that really made my adrenaline pump. Which, the first one that comes to mind is the murder-suicide of the McGee family. Now, prior to this, we understand that Bobby has a short fuse, he sometimes bullies Trevor, he's an alcoholic, and he has a lot of personal demons, especially since his creativity isn't what it used to be. But one night, as his wife Rosia is modeling for an art class, Bobby's left in charge of watching the children, and unfortunately he gets extremely drunk. Then, as the night progresses, Bobby ends up drugging Trevor, which causes Trevor to black out, and Trevor doesn't wake up until the next day, where he's confronted with the horrendous crime that his father created. So, I knew some shit was going to go down, but I just did not know what to expect with the description, and by how the aftermath of this is described by Brite, I'm really glad that we didn't actually see the murders firsthand, because not only did this spare us of some really nasty details, but I tend to think that had we actually seen the murders, it would have taken away from the impact of when Trevor first saw his dead family. Also, because of how the aftermath of this crime scene is portrayed, we really didn't need to see the murders to know how brutal Bobby was. Like, for example, when Trevor saw his mom, he notices that her fingers and hands are broken because she tried to defend herself from Bobby's hammer blows. Then, when Trevor goes to Dee Dee's room, he notes that the room smells like blood and shit, and he sees where the back of Dee Dee's head looks like a gory swamp due to the hammer blows. So, even though we didn't actually see the murders as they took place, my heart was still racing as I was reading about what went down while Trevor was asleep. The next moment that I found to be really intense was the bathroom hallucination scene. Now, what happens here is after Trevor and Zach vow their love to one another, Trevor goes to sleep and Zach goes to the bathroom. But once he's alone, Zach gets locked inside and the sink turns on by itself where it expels this really nasty mixture of old blood and sperm. Then, to up the ante, when Zach looks into the bathroom mirror, he sees where he's rotting and lesions have covered his skin, and there's these maggots that are crawling out of those lesions. So, yeah, it just gets really, really nasty. But when Zach can't take any more of this, he grabs the mirror and slams it down in the tub, which causes the hallucination to end as far as him rotting and stuff like that. But when he looks into the shards of mirror, he can see there's something overhead that's swinging back and forth like this, but he can't exactly make out what it is. Then, when Trevor is able to actually get into the bathroom, everything has returned to normal for the most part, but through Trevor's perspective, we discover that the thing that was swinging back and forth from the shower rod like that was actually the ghost of Bobby McGee from where he hung himself. Aside from this being intense, I really found it interesting how the haunting increased to this level after Zach and Trevor vowed their love. Because a part of me thinks this moment is suggesting how a person's past can also haunt their lover. And in this sense, I believe the book is insinuating that if you dwell in your past while your relationship is trying to advance, it could cause your lover to run. Which, I mention this because while Zach feels that Trevor's ghost doesn't want him around, Trevor feels like the house won't hurt them. Or, in other words, the past won't hurt them. Which, of course, we see otherwise until they decide to leave their past behind. The final moment that had me on the edge of my seat was after Trevor and Zach returned from Birdland. Now, prior to this, we discover that Trevor was able to astral project back in time and confront his father on the night of the murders, which this is when Bobby explained the reason why he killed his family was because he loved them, and upon opening them up, he was able to learn them inside and out. But the reason why he spared Trevor was because he saw a creative part of himself in Trevor that he couldn't bring himself to kill. Then, after gaining those batshit crazy motives, Bobby tries to convince Trevor that he really wants to know what it feels like to kill someone. From here, Trevor and Zach return from Birdland, but upon their return, Trevor tries to kill Zach with a hammer, which Zach understands that Trevor is being manipulated, so he's able to actually convince Trevor that if you love someone, you want them to live. Then, after he's able to reason with Trevor, Trevor finally gives up the hammer, and Zach explains that pretty much Bobby was a piece of shit, because instead of Bobby releasing his family after he saw that he could not provide for them, he killed them, and after Bobby saw that he could not live without his family, he killed himself. Y'all, for a hot minute there, I was really worried that we were not going to have a happy ending. And as Trevor was trying to kill Zach, my mind was literally screaming no, and my hands were gripping the book so hard that my knuckles started to hurt. Which, truth be it, if Zach and Trevor had ended up as another murder-suicide, I would have thrown the book across the room because I love these characters so very much. But to my relief, and also the relief of the characters, these star-crossed lovers were able to overcome the damages brought on by their family and actually have a happy future together, which totally made me love this book 100 times more than what I already did. I would like to take the opportunity to bitch about the parents in this book, because aside from Rosia, the rest of the parents were these living, breathing, walking, talking pieces of human trash. Now, to start with, Zach's parents were these two awful asshats where his dad always beat the hell out of him, and while his mother constantly verbally abused him, they both reminded him non-stop that he was an accident because a condom broke and they never wanted him to start with. Then, aside from these two skid marks, we have Bobby McGee, which, if I were to compare Bobby to Zach's parents, I could see there being the argument that Zach's parents weren't as bad as Bobby because they never tried to kill Zach. Well, I guarantee if things didn't play out the way they did, Zach would be 6 feet under. But anywho, back to Bobby. Now, Bobby was truly a piece of shit who deserved to be strung up by his balls and left to dangle, because even though he drugged his children before he murdered his youngest and his wife, he did not show any of them mercy. Like, instead of just making it a quick, clean killing, he bludgeons his youngest child and his wife to death with a hammer. Like, for real, this type of murder takes a hardcore level of hatred. Also, on top of that, the only reason why he spared Trevor was because he saw an artistic side of himself reflected in Trevor, and he wanted there to be a legacy of his art. So yeah, there was no bleeding heart inside of this human colostomy bag. And at the end of the day, if there was an award ceremony for the shittiest parent of the year, and I had to choose between Bobby and Zach's parents, I honestly don't know who I would give the award to. Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite is a difficult book to categorize, because even though it is primarily a horror novel, it also feels like a romance, a drama, a dark fantasy, and at times it's even erotic and there is some dark humor. But aside from what category this book best fits into, Drawing Blood provides us with some awesome characters, and it's a great throwback to the 90s. Also, it does present some pretty hardcore topics, such as the after effects of domestic abuse, as well as knowing when to leave your past behind, and how everyone has a choice to not repeat an abusive cycle. First off, the characters of Zach and Trevor were absolutely phenomenal, and because of how realistic they felt and how I was able to relate to them, this is a book that I will always hold close to my heart. Now, I'm not gonna lie, and hopefully with what I'm about to say, Carrie won't make me sleep in the doghouse, but I had a major crush on Zach and Trevor. Like, they had this whole 90s grunge aesthetic going on that was hot as hell. Plus, one was a singer, the other one was an artist, and they both eventually became outlaws. So, yeah, all of that mixed together and became very intoxicating for me. Also, due to how descriptive their sex scenes were, I honestly felt like I was being seduced by them as I read. And even though Zach and Trevor aren't saints whatsoever, there's a tenderness and truthfulness to their relationship that makes them even more attractive. Theme-wise, I noticed where Drawing Blood focused on domestic abuse and how this can affect a child even after they become an adult. Like, a good example is seen by how Trevor is haunted daily because of what his father did. And due to the trauma that he survived, it really messed with his mindset, where he believed that his father spared him because his father didn't love him. Then, even though we have some external sources that are messing with Trevor, eventually Trevor believes that pain is more powerful than love. Also, since this traumatic childhood event, Trevor grew up in the system where he was bullied by other kids. Which, even though he does learn how to defend himself, all of this piled on him, and it made him grow into a loner where he used self-mutilation in order to cope. Then, as far as Zach is concerned, although he wasn't the survivor of a family murder-suicide, both of his parents were extremely abusive. And similar to Trevor's case, Zach's toxic home life never allowed him to have a stable family environment. But unlike Trevor, Zach left home at an early age and turned to a life of crime in regards to computer hacking, which the book details as being a very stressful lifestyle. So, overall, because of the abuse and neglect that happened to Trevor and Zach in their childhood, we see how this carries over and has made them unstable as adults. And if they had grown up in a stable home, their life would have been very different in a positive sense. But at the same time, had it not been for their horrendous past, I don't know if their paths ever would have crossed. And if that was the case, it would have really sucked because Trevor and Zach really made a great couple, and I felt like they were able to help each other grow. Aside from making lemonade out of lemons, another subject that I noticed was the importance of knowing when to leave your past behind. Now, at first, the past is used as a stepping stone for Trevor and Zach to become open books with each other. And even though this does allow them to bond, eventually it feels like they become trapped in this limbo type of state where they want their relationship to advance, but they're not able to do so because the past is holding them back. Which, even though we know you can't escape your past, we also know that you can focus on what's going on now versus staying stuck in what happened before. And even though it isn't spelled out, I really got the idea that Trevor and Zach were primarily haunted by their past, which this becomes very relevant when they go to Birdland and they're confronted with the ghost of their childhood. Then, after they return to reality, we see that if they don't leave their past behind, they're doomed to remain stuck in that type of limbo. And last, the final subject that I noticed regards how a person has a choice to break the abusive cycle of their childhood, which I can't elaborate too much here because it would reveal some spoilers, but near the end of the book, it does show how Trevor has the choice where he can either become the same toxic person that his father was, or he can choose to live a happy life with his lover. Now, this is a pretty heavy topic because I do understand that abuse can mold a person, but it gets to a point in everyone's life where they have to realize that they are responsible for their actions and they do have a choice, which the book does reveal how you can either live in the past and continue to contribute to wounds that have never healed, or you can break the cycle and start the healing process. Overall, drawing blood didn't scare me, but there were some scenes that were creepy and fairly disturbing. And I'm not gonna lie, there were also some scenes where the heat was turned up so high with the sexual tension that I almost had to take a cold shower. So yeah, do with that what you will. Also, I really did become quickly invested with the characters and the plot. Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite is an intense haunted house story that features a same-sex couple. And even though the book does have quite a few sex scenes in it, nothing is so over the top that it becomes pornographic. And even though the book does have a few gory scenes, nothing is constant and nothing is to the point where it's nauseating. Which, in my opinion, there's only really 2 scenes in this book that are actually gory. But at the end of the day, I do highly recommend Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Brite, especially if you're looking for a chilling paranormal story about an alternative same-sex couple. On to the questions. My first question is, what is a horror book you would recommend by a transgender author? My next question is, why do you feel it's important to see representation in fiction? Personally, I love reading about characters who remind me of myself because it allows me to connect with them on a personal level, and it also helps me go deeper into the work where it feels like I'm a part of that world. But aside from that, I feel like representation is important because for people who might be unfamiliar with certain walks of life, representation in fiction can help educate them. Now for a grandma update. With the last video that I posted, which was my unboxing video, I thought that Grandma was coming home next Friday, but it turns out today that she's actually coming home this upcoming Wednesday. So because of that, I'm really excited, and I know this week is going to be pretty hectic with getting everything in order and just spending some quality time with her that I haven't been able to enjoy for like about the last 2 or 3 months. So because of that, I'm probably not going to upload a video next weekend, so just bear with me because another book review will be in the near future. Just don't know exactly when that will be, but the intent is not this weekend, but the weekend after that. And with Grandma, she has done some amazing recovery, and this is not only because of her just having the gumption to do better, but also the people who she has been surrounded with at the facility she's currently at have absolutely been angels. And because of them, I honestly wholeheartedly believe that my grandma is in the good spirits that she is currently in. So, yeah, just nothing but good news there. So, thanks everyone for your thoughts, prayers, and good vibes. I really do appreciate them. Before I close out my video, I would like to thank Lisa G, as well as J.L. Mulvihill, which J.L. Mulvihill is a young adult steampunk fantasy author, and her books are available in print, ebook, and audio wherever books are sold. Also, I would like to thank Melody Romeo, which Melody Romeo is a historic fiction fantasy author, and her books are available in print and ebook. Also, Melody Romeo goes under the pseudonym Adele Lane, which Adele Lane focuses on same-sex fiction, and her books are available in print and ebook wherever books are sold. Also, I would like to thank Nicholas Gray, which Nicholas Gray is a horror author, and his books are available in print, ebook, and audio wherever books are sold. Also, I would like to thank the artist Lisa Shin, which you can check out her artwork on the Facebook page called The Art of Shin. Also, I would like to thank horror enthusiast Blake Kelly. And last but not least, I would like to thank my mom and grandma. Now, if you're wondering why I'm giving a shout out to these wonderful people, it's because they've had the opportunity to contribute to my Patreon account, which if you would like to do that as well, just go to the link I provided in the description of this video, and for $5 a month, I'll give you a shout out at the end of my videos. For $10 a month, I'll still give you that shout out, but I do creepy photography on the side, so I'll send over a creepy photo at the beginning of every month. After you receive that photo, you can print it off, do whatever you like. So if you're able to do this, that's awesome. If not, no sweat. I just hope you return to this channel so we can have a good time together. And if you would like to hunt me down on social media, links to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are all available in the description section of this video. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell. So until we see each other again, I hope you have a great week or 2 weeks and sweet nightmares.